الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وله الحمد في الآخرة وهو الحكيم الخبير والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث إلى كافة الورى شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته أئمة الهدى ومصابيح الدجى الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد.
أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا يحيى خذ الكتاب بقوة وآتيناه الحكم صبيا. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
My respected elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, this evening we'll be looking at some aspects of the life of Nabi Yahya ala Nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam. And the questions that I will try and answer this evening are as follows. First of all, what do the Quran and traditions tell us about this great prophet? Secondly, what are the similarities between Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa ala Nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam? And finally, what can we as parents do to assist in the madrasa learning of our children? Inshallah, we'll begin our analysis with our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The first question that we'll try and answer this evening is, what do the Quran and traditions tell us about Nabi Yahya ala Nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam? Well, we are told that he was the son of Nabi Zakaria ala Nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam. In English, he's known as John the Baptist. And his father, like I said, is Zakaria. Nabi Zakaria married a lady by the name of Elizabeth. And in Arabic, she is known as Hanana. Now, this Elizabeth was actually married to someone who also married a prophet. So, two sisters marrying two prophets. Elizabeth marrying Nabi Zakaria, and the other sister, her name was Anna, or in Arabic, Hannah. So she married Joachim, who we know as Imran. So this is where the story starts. Two sisters marrying two brothers. On the side of Nabi Zakaria and Elizabeth, of course, their child is Nabi Yahya, who we're going to be examining this evening. On the other side, with Anna and Imran, of course, their child is the Holy Lady Maryam, and then her child is Nabi Isa ala Nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam. So this is how the family tree is set up for this story that we will now go into, inshallah. Now, it is quite remarkable to note that actually Nabi Zakaria didn't have much hope of having a son. And what happened was, because he had reached an old age and his wife Elizabeth was also barren during the entire length of their married life, he didn't really have any hope until this prayer of his. This prayer of his actually came about when he hears about the Lady Maryam being given the glad tidings. And so he himself makes this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, oh Allah, bless me with a pure progeny. So a progeny which is tayyibah. Now, at this stage, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him the great tidings that he will be blessed with a son called Yahya. And this Yahya, it is the first time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has conferred this name on any of his creatures. So Nabi Yahya was the first one to be given this name. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conveys to him this wonderful glad tidings. He is really happy that now after all of these years he's going to be given this son. So when we look at this story, we see that actually when Nabi Isa is born, his mother, the Holy Lady Maryam, Nabi Yahya is actually the cousin of the Holy Lady Maryam. You can see the relationship there. So what happens is after Nabi Zakaria passes away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appoints Nabi Yahya to now take on the responsibility of prophethood. Now he begins to warn the Israelites of the time of their sinful behavior, and he tells them about the Messiah that will come about in around 20 years time or so. Obviously it's referring to Nabi Isa, who will save them. So this is where we pick up the story that Nabi Yahya is born now, and we will now begin to see what are the amazing similarities between both of these great prophets, Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. There are amazing similarities between these two prophets. And both of these prophets, they teach us so much. Their lives are, at least for a partial time, they are overlapping, and even the prophets, like for example Zakaria, he actually takes care of the Holy Lady Maryam, and he puts her through a number of training processes in that temple that she is serving. But let's have a look at some of these similarities. First of all, miraculous birth. What a wonderful story we have with regards to the birth of both Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa. Nabi Isa we all know about, because of course it's miraculous in the sense that he never had a father. It was a miraculous birth from the Holy Lady Maryam, and that was it. But also on the side now of Nabi Yahya, what a similarity we have there, because it was also miraculous. Not that he didn't have a father, like I've been saying, his father was Nabi Zakaria, but is miraculous in the sense that I mentioned earlier. He had gone throughout his life without being blessed with a child. He's very old now, and his wife Elizabeth was always barren during their married life. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them these wonderful tidings that you will have this son called Nabi Yahya. So now when this son is born, we are told that Nabi Zakaria is in so much awe of what has just taken place. Before he's born, the glad tidings that come to him, he's in awe. He's so happy that Allah has given him these wonderful words of tidings that you will be given this son called Yahya, that he actually asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him a sign. He can hardly believe it, that he's going to be blessed with a son. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him that your sign will be that you will not be able to speak to the people for 3 days. This is where the second similarity comes in between Nabi Isa and Nabi Yahya. So Nabi Zakaria is told, you will not speak to the people for 3 days. This is your sign that what we have told you is something of truth, and it will come true. So now when he comes out of the temple, the people, they see that there is something different with Nabi Zakaria now. And they ask him, but he gives them some indications through gestures that he's unable to talk. And he conveys to them through these gestures that this will last for 3 whole days. So then what about on the side of Nabi Isa? Where does the silence come in there? It's a little bit different, but there is still that element of being silent. What happens here is that when the Holy Lady Maryam gives birth to Nabi Isa gives her these words of comfort that don't worry, and he tells her, because she is worried, that people are going to say all sorts of things about her because she wasn't married and now she has this son that she will obviously have with her. People are going to talk. People are going to accuse her of being unchaste. That where did this son come from? So Nabi Isa tells her that don't worry. And he gives her these words of condolences. He says that when you come across someone, tell them that I have kept a vow, another, which I'll mention a few words in a moment about. I have kept a vow that I will not talk to anyone today. And she says that this is something that she will be doing, and she's very pleased in effect that she doesn't have to talk to people. She doesn't have to try and explain to people where this son has come from. And in effect, she is leaving her affairs to what her son has told her, that somehow this will all be taken care of. So she is silent. Nabi Zakaria was silent as well. We see this wonderful comparison. Now just a note on nazar. This is something that we are recommended to keep, or a minnat as we sometimes refer to it in other languages. That we keep a vow, sometimes for something to be averted from us, some misfortune. Sometimes we keep it, for example, for something to happen. So for example, the best example that we have, and it is in the Quran, is of course with regards to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. When Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they were ill, and so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he advises not just them, but also Imam Ali alayhi salam and the Holy Lady Fatima sallallahu to keep another. And in fact, we're also told that the servant, the Lady Fizza, also keeps this nazar as well, and that is to fast for 3 consecutive days, for the sake that Imam Hassan alayhi salam, or rather, if they get better, they must keep a fast for 3 consecutive days. Of course, what happens is the 2 holy children of Lady Fatima Az-Zahra and Imam Ali alayhi salam, they get better, and so they must keep a fast for 3 consecutive days. This was another to enable them to get better. And then of course, on each of these occasions, at the time of iftar, now we all know how it's like at the time of iftar. We're experiencing this all the time on these holy days and nights. We know how difficult it is and how much we want to break our fast on time. But what happens is, on each of these 3 consecutive times, at the time of iftar, people knock on the door and they ask for some food. On the first occasion, it is an orphan. We also have a miskin, a destitute person, and we have a prisoner. So the ayah is revealed that we all know about, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us through this whole verse and this whole incident that this is something which is a sunnah of the followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That just like they kept a nazar, we should also keep nazar sincerely, of course. Like the verse tells us, it was liwajhillah. So because they kept it so sincerely, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He blesses them not only by a mention of them and their story in the Quran, but actually quoting their words in the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they don't want any jaza. All they do is that they keep it liwajhillah. La nuridu minkum jaza'an wala shakura. We don't want any reward, we don't want any thanks, because they're doing it purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the second example that we can give, where there is this distinct similarity between Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa. So we have already the example of silence, and we have already the miraculous birth. A third example is the fact that both of them were given glad tidings about their births by angels. So we mentioned what happened with Nabi Zakaria. The angels, they tell him that you will have this son called Yahya, and it is a name that Allah has not given to anyone before in the history of mankind. On the other hand though, we are also told that the Holy Lady Maryam is given glad tidings of the birth of Nabi Isa. So again, a similarity. Not just that, but also the angels facilitate the birth of both of these. Because with Nabi Zakaria, it was the angels that enabled, of course, through the instruction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for his wife Elizabeth to get pregnant in the first place at that old age. After all of those years of being barren, it was the angels through the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that managed to help her get the seed of Nabi Yahya. Also with regards to Nabi Maryam, we know that in fact she doesn't even have a husband. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly now through the angels enables her to have Nabi Isa in her womb. So this is the third similarity. The angels' role in the birth and in the glad tidings that they give to both of these. So now let's have a look at the fourth one. The fourth one we can spend a few moments more. The fourth similarity is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends His special salam to both of them. Not only at the time of their birth, but also He says when they die and also when they are brought back to life. The three most, if you like, hassas, the three most very sensitive times of our lives, or our existence, when we are born, when we die, and then when we are being brought back to life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conveys to them His salam. So what is the verse? We are told that in verse number 30, we are told in verse number 15 of Surah Maryam with regard to Nabi Yahya. Salamun alayhi yawma wulida wa yawma yamut wa yawma yub'ath hayya. So what that means, salam upon him, meaning Nabi Yahya, yawma wulida, the day that he was born, wa yawma yamut, the day that he will die, wa yawma yub'athu hayya, the day that he will be brought alive, which means the day after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decrees for us that we will all die, the day when we will all be brought back to life. But with regards to Nabi Yahya, He's giving him a special salam, a word of peace, meaning that from the start of his whole existence, right to the end, his existence was an existence of peacefulness. This is something which is a great blessing for us to bear in mind. And there is another point that I'll come to later on. But what about with regard to Nabi Isa? Again, we are told, this time in verse number 33 of Surah Maryam, almost identical words are used. Just the tense is used. Instead of the third person, Nabi Isa says it himself. So he's saying it in the first person. As-salam alayya. So the salam and the peace of Allah is with me. When? Yawma wulidtu. Now he's talking in the first person. The day when I was born. Wa yawma amut. The day when I will die. Wa yawma ub'athu hayya. And the day when I will be brought alive. Meaning the day after we have all died and Allah brings us back to life from our graves. So again, we have this amazing similarity. Not just of the miraculous birth, not just of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables the angels to convey their glad tidings to them, and to have this role in their existence to come about. Not just in the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for them, and the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them these special distinctions through the angels, but also the conveying of salams and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that silence that both Nabi Zakaria and the Holy Ladies Maryam kept during their lives. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So this point that I wanted to mention, and that is about the fact that unfortunately there are some Muslims who are very much averse to keeping celebrations on happy occasions. Or for example, they're very much averse to any other Muslims are in fact mourning the death of holy personalities. Now, what can we say to such people? What answers do we have? Well, these blessed verses, they tell us where our base is coming from. Our base is coming from the Quran itself. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said with regards to these great prophets, Nabi Isa and Nabi Yahya, that I am sending my salams on you. When? On the days that you were born, and on the days that you died. What is that telling us? That gives us all the proof that we need, that when we celebrate the birthdays of the Aimma alayhimus salam, the prophets, the A'yad and the Eids and the other happy occasions, this is something that has its base in the Quran itself. Because Allah is celebrating in these verses, in effect, He is drawing our attention that their birthdays were days of celebration. Their birthdays were days of blessing. Otherwise, what's the point of Allah saying that peace be upon you, O Yahya and O Isa, on the days you were born? He is giving us a message here that they were blessed days, and also the days when they died. Like I mentioned, Yom Yamud and Amud, meaning the day that he dies and the day that I die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that don't think that the days that these great personalities die on are just ordinary days. No, just like the days of their birth, the days of their passing away are also important. Otherwise, Allah, why does He pick them out in these verses so predominantly? It's in order to give us some indication that there is some special blessings on these occasions. So mu'mineen, when we gather, when we mourn the martyrdoms of Mawla Ali and Imam Hussein and all of the Aimma alayhimus salam, when we celebrate the birthday of Imam Hassan alayhi salam on this holy month, when we celebrate the birthdays of all the Aimma alayhimus salam, and other people are criticizing us, calling us names, and trying to tell us that we are doing some type of bid'ah and bringing an innovation into the religion, let's inshallah always point to our firm proofs, which predominantly is the verses of the Quran. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa Muhammad. But now, the fifth and final comparison between these two great prophets, Nabi Isa and Nabi Yahya. And that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conferred on them both special distinctions during their childhood. And inshallah, I would like to link this with the final question later on about what we can do as parents to assist with the madrasa learning of our children, inshallah. But that is coming in a moment. So let's have a look at this similarity. The special distinction that Allah conferred on both of them in their childhood. This is telling us a number of important lessons, especially with regards to our children. First of all, the verse that I recited at the beginning of this lecture is verse number 12 of Surah Maryam. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very clearly the distinction that he is given Nabi Yahya in his childhood. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Yahya. He addresses him and he calls to him specifically by name. Ya Yahya, khudil kitab. O Yahya, hold fast onto the book. Now, often is interpreted to be the book of Nabi Musa ala nabiyina wa alihi wa alayhi salam, because Nabi Yahya was obligated to implement the book of Nabi Musa, the Torah. Other people have said it could be Injil as well, or all the divine books. In any case, hold fast onto the book, the divine book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also telling us that we must also hang on and cling on fast to the book of Allah, even from a young age. Because then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. And we gave him the hukm when he was still a child. Now what does this mean? We gave him the hukm. You see, my brothers and sisters, what we must do is become very familiar with these verses of the Quran. We should be able to know at least these important verses that relate to our prophets, what these words and sentences mean. So with regards to hukm, again, a number of opinions have been put forward. Hukm means nabuwwah, that we have given you, O Yahya, nabuwwah and prophethood when you were still a child. Well, that could be an opinion, but others have said no. In other verses, nabuwwah is mentioned separately from hukm, so therefore it cannot be hukm, because why would other verses separate them? If they meant the same thing, Allah wouldn't separate them in other verses. He would have just kept it together because it means nabuwwah. Anyway, that's one opinion. Another opinion is hukm means judgment. Oh Yahya, we gave you good judgment to make the right decisions at the right time. Wisdom, if you like. A type of wisdom is another interpretation. Hukm means wisdom. Wisdom is different to knowledge. Just as a point here on what wisdom is acting in the right way in every single moment of our lives. So whatever scenario we have been presented with, we always act with wisdom. We apply all our knowledge and our experience in the right way. So this is where it's different to knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge, and we gain so much through knowledge. But you could have, for example, a doctor who has tremendous knowledge. He knows everything about his field. Let's say he's a bone specialist, he's a gynecologist, whatever it might be. He knows everything in terms of book knowledge. He has learned it very well. But then a patient comes to him and he's unable to guide them properly. He's unable to apply that knowledge to that person's case. Then another person comes. He gives the same advice. Another person comes. He gives the same advice to everyone who's coming to him. He's unable to give proper, specific advice according to their situation. This is because he might be alim, but he is not hakim. He's not wise. A wise person has that knowledge, but is able to give that knowledge and apply it properly to each and every case as it demands. So in any case, some people have said he was blessed with wisdom. Others have said no. What this means is hukam is also linked to the word istihkam and being solid, being firm. So it means firm knowledge. In any case, knowledge which is really firm, that enabled him to have deep ma'rifah of Allah and His responsibilities, and then put it into practice as well. In any case, this is with regard to Nabi Yahya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, hold fast onto the book, خُذِ الْكِتَابَ بِقُوَّةٍ وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْحُكْمَ صَبِيًّا. And we gave him hukm while he was still a child. So now that is Nabi Yahya. What about Nabi Isa? What is the comparison here? How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describe to us in His wonderful book as to what He blessed Nabi Isa when he was young? وَقَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. We are told in Surah Maryam as well. Nabi Isa, when he is born, you know what he says? The first words that come out of his mouth, إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. I am the servant of Allah. This is a brilliant lesson for us as well. How important it is for our prophets that they are the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no higher distinction for any prophet than to be regarded as being the abd of Allah. This is why when he is born, he says, Inni Abdullah. I am the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Atani al-kitaba wa ja'alani nabiyya. So he says, he's still an infant. He says that not only am I the servant of Allah, but Allah, I have been given the book, meaning Injil. Here, Al-Kitab means Injil. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. And He has made me a prophet. He has made me a Nabi. So here we have the fifth and final similarity between Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa. Both of them being given distinctions and special gifts while they are still in their childhood. Again, here is a very important lesson for us as an answer to those people who criticize us for following leaders when they were still very young. Sometimes we are told that why do you Shia follow certain imams? That's one thing. But on top of that, why do you follow certain imams who were children? So, of course, we have our three imams who became the imams at a very young age. What answer can we give them this time? Again, we point to these verses. This is why it's so important to study the lives of these great prophets for all those other reasons I mentioned earlier, but also so that we benefit from these verses and we can give answers to those people who are attacking our firm beliefs. So, for example, which imams do we have who became imams at a young age? Well, we have three imams. So we have Imam Mohammed al-Taqi, who was salawatullah alayhi, who became the imam at the age of 7 years and 11 months. Now, the criticism here is that how can you follow a child who's not even 8 years of age, 7 years and 11 months? Not just him, but also his son. We have Imam Ali al-Naqi, salawatullah alayhi, 7 years and 4 months, or 7 years and 11 months. The previous Imam, 7 years and 4 months. Then we have, of course, our own Imam Sahib al-Zaman, Abdullah Ta'ala Farajul Sharif, who became the Imam at the age of 4 years and 7 months. So now, the criticism, how can we answer this? We answer it primarily by drawing on the verses of the Quran. These verses that tell us Allah Himself conferred these great blessings and these great distinctions on two of the most important prophets mentioned in the Quran, Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa. For Nabi Yahya was given the Kitab and Hukam when he was Sabiyya, as we saw, when he was still in his childhood. Nabi Isa, he's able to talk and he's able to say, Inni Abdullah, and he's been given Injil and he's been made Nabiyya. when he's still an infant. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can speed up the learning process miraculously, if He can develop one's aql so that they can learn and mature much faster than in ordinary circumstances, like He did with a child who's still in the cradle, like He did with Nabi Yahya and Nabi Isa, then surely He can do that with the best of His creations, the Aima alayhimu salam. Sallu ala Muhammad. So these were the similarities between these two great prophets. Now, like I mentioned, I would like to draw on these great prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and link it to something which is really a big concern for many of us, and that is the madrasa learning of our children. So we saw that both of these prophets were blessed with great knowledge, with wisdom, with distinction, with judgment, and with tremendous learning right from a young age. What inspiration can we gain from their lives so that we as parents, we can assist in the madrasa learning of our children? Now, I specifically want to talk about our madrasa learning rather than the general learning that takes place in schools, because often I find, wherever I go, that there are madrasas in the centers that I visit, but sometimes, I'm not saying this particular community or this center or this madrasa, I don't know it well enough to be able to make such judgments, but generally speaking, I'm talking about, there often is a type of dichotomy. There is a type of difference in the approach that parents take with regards to the learning of their children in schools, in regular schools, in the secular world, and the learning in madrasas. And this dichotomy causes lots and lots of problems. The key to all of the advice that I'm going to give in a moment is that if there is always going to be this dichotomy, this division between the learning that we emphasize on in the secular world and the learning that we have in the madrasas of our children, then it's going to be very difficult to get them up to that same level as they are accustomed to in the secular learning that they are encountering. As long as that there is this big gap, then we are always going to be facing an uphill struggle. So let's have a look at some of the very good advice that I've come across. What I did was I looked at the advice that is often given to how parents can help their children perform better and progress more, develop much better in their secular learning, in secular schools. There's lots of research done about the role of parents in the learning of their children in secular schools. However, there is not much done in the role of parents in the madrasa learning of their children. So what I did was I took that research that has been done, at least some of it, there's lots and lots of it, some of it, and I adapted it to see, can we make it suitable for the role parents play in the madrasa learning of their children. So what I came across was 5 pieces of advice. First one, have hopes, dreams, and high ambitions for your child. Now, the problem is we have hopes and dreams and ambitions for our children in their regular state schools or private schools, in their secular learning. Do we have high ambitions and hopes and dreams for their madrasa learning? Do we have set objectives for them, what we want them to accomplish? Again, if we don't, there's going to be this dichotomy. When we have the dichotomy, very difficult, because not only are we not giving that emphasis and importance, but also the children, they themselves will feel it. They themselves will sense it. Children, they seem to have these sort of like invisible antennae. right? They pick up messages from their parents. They will pick it up. And you know what? When it comes to madrasa, mum and dad are not giving that much importance to it. There's not like the importance they give to our schools that we attend Monday to Friday. They will pick this up and it will have an impact on them. So we need to set ourselves high ambitions, objectives, dreams and aspirations and give importance and tell our children that, you know what, madrasa learning is as important, if not more important, than your secular learning. Only then will they excel in their madrasa learning as well. So very simple things. Punctuality. Are we really punctual when it comes to dropping off and making sure that our children attend madrasa on time? Well, like I said, I don't know this community well enough and the madrasa well enough and all of that. I'm talking generally speaking. For what I've seen over the years and in different places is that no, there is not the same emphasis on punctuality. Responding to messages in a timely manner and in a constructive manner to the madrasa teachers and the principal and those who are running the madrasa. So they send us as parents, they send us messages. Do we respond to them quickly, in a timely manner, seriously and constructively or not? What about when a teacher from the secular school sends us a message? Then what? Is there a difference or not? Well, we must all look at ourselves and our positions. Communication, if there are problems. If there's problems with our children in secular school, in regular school, a teacher, we have a problem or a program or a class, we're on to it straight away. But what about in madrasa? Do we respond to these problems straight away or not? Do we inform the organizers, those who are running madrasa, that for example, you know, so-and-so, my son, my daughter can't come in today, or they're not feeling very well, or they have this issue? Are we communicating with the madrasa like we are communicating with schools? So that was all about having aspirations, raising the bar, and having dreams and hopes. Second thing that we are told, and this is something that I would like to quote. It's all about helping your children enjoy madrasa learning. With school, we want them to really have a good time there and learn. And we know the relationship between the two. But what about madrasa? Are we really preparing the groundwork for them to enjoy madrasa and so they look forward to it or not? The quote is as follows from this research. Children develop their attitudes and beliefs in their abilities from their parents. Be positive about madrasa and respect. So this is something that I put here. Be positive about madrasa and be respectful about teachers. Don't give off negative vibes whenever it comes to, I think it's Sunday here, right? On Sundays, sometimes in other places it's Saturday, sometimes it's Saturdays and Sundays. No negative vibes about going to madrasa. Really positive from the time they wake up about madrasa going to happen in a few hours' time, getting ready for it. Also, one important thing that I've noticed as well, unfortunately, and that is sometimes disrespect that is shown to teachers. So, our child had an issue with some teacher. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't think. Immediately we go into ghibat mode, right? We start talking negatively about that teacher. And before we've even heard the other side, we take the side of our son, our daughter, and we start saying all these negative things about the teacher. What is that doing? That is disrespecting the teacher, is haram, is ghibat, but on top of everything, it's demeaning the status of that teacher in the eyes of that child. And it is lowering the madrasa again. So it is giving a very negative opinion about the madrasa. Let's be very careful when we talk about teachers and about the madrasa in general. Again, on this whole aspect of making it fun. We need to encourage our children that it's okay for them to make mistakes, to learn from mistakes. Sometimes we are very harsh, especially when it comes to, deen issues, that they mustn't make mistakes. Well, when they are young, this is a time when we should tell them that it's okay to learn, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from them. We need to be more compassionate. Now, in the past, it used to be very strict, with all sorts of sticks being, thrown around, and chalks, and God knows what. But these days, perhaps it's not that harsh, but still, we are sometimes not compassionate with our children. I like to point to a verse in the Quran. You all know it, in fact. A number of verses that tells us about the importance to be compassionate when we are trying to teach our children things. And they are the first 4 verses of Surah Al-Rahman. What does Allah teach us in these wonderful verses? He says, Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran. Then, Khalaqa al-Insan, Allamahul Bayan. Now, there's a very important lesson here for us. A number of lessons, but here, I just wanted to pick on the aspect of us needing to be compassionate when we are in the mode, when we are in the role of teaching. Allah says, first of all, Ar-Rahman, the all-compassionate. Then what does He say? Allama al-Quran, the one who taught the Quran. Thirdly, Khalaqal Insan, He created mankind. Fourthly, Allamahul Bayan, and He taught him the expression. What has come first here? What has come second here? And what has come third here? First has come compassion, then has come teaching, and then has come creation. Now, usually, we would think that creation should come before teaching, isn't it? Allah, if you were to look at it in a normal way, it would be talking about Allah, then He creates man, then He teaches man. But Allah doesn't put it in that order. He says, Ar-Rahman, the all-compassionate. Then He says, Allam al-Quran. He taught the book, the Quran. Then He talks about creation. The order is different. First comes compassion, then teaching. Allah is telling us that just like I precede my teaching with compassion, you too should precede your teaching with compassion. When your children make mistakes in class, in their learning, be compassionate to them. For indeed Allah places compassion before teaching, and then He talks about creation. Thirdly, talk with your children about their madrasa learning. Talking generally with our children has enormous benefits. Quote, children who talk openly with their parents about their day have better educational outcomes. It's the same with madrasa learning. When we talk to them, whether it's on the way back from madrasa, or it's over a meal, or it's when we are relaxing, or when we are outside somewhere, let's talk to our children, ask them about the madrasa learning, ask them what they learned today. It's no good trying to talk to them in a very complex manner. So we shouldn't start, for example, asking them, what were the objectives in the history curriculum that you achieved today? What are they going to reply to something like that, right? Ask them, what was fun today? What did you do on your break? What new thing did you learn today? That would encourage them to open up and start the conversation. Then we can build on that. We can, inshallah, work with them on their homework. Teachers also, just a note for teachers, they should set exercises that encourage the participation of parents. So homework should be devised in a way that parents can actively take a role in their children's learning as well. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. Fourthly, read with your child. Quote, parents that read out loud regularly with their children help them to do better. We can certainly read out with them or read with them Quran, dua, stories, as we've been discussing all of these evenings. Stories of the Prophet, stories of the Imams. Children love them. You know, stories of pious individuals, the great ulama, the great saints that we have, the urafa, inspiring stories that have very significant lessons. And fifthly and finally, get involved with your child's madrasa. It's not them and us, but rather us together. We are all in it together. So ask the madrasa how we can help. You know, it shouldn't just be, you know, dropping off our children all the time and not doing anything ourselves. No, let's also contribute in some way, you know, volunteer some hours, some services, some things perhaps, and inshallah take an active role in the madrasa. Talk with the children's teachers about their learning goals. We do that with regular school. Why don't we do that madrasa? How is my child doing? What are the goals? What should I focus on a bit more today? Can you set me some work that I can develop with them over the next few weeks? How are things going? Do you need any help? All of these things with the teachers, with the principals, if there is a principal, or the person in charge. And also talk to other parents as well. Often we think our child is the only one in a particular problem. After we've spoken to other parents, we realize our child is not alone. There are certain common problems. Our children are facing things that other children are facing. We also, by talking to other parents, we gain so many tips and some advices from them as well. So inshallah, let's end with a summary that today we looked at the story of Nabi Yahya, and we asked ourselves these three questions. What do the Quran and traditions tell us about this great prophet? We learned a number of things about his blessed life, and then we looked at what are the similarities between this great prophet and Nabi Isa, and what can we learn from those similarities. Similarities such as the miraculous birth, the silence, the fact that the angels conveyed these glad tidings to them with regards to the birth of their children, like with Nabi Maryam, her child, and with Nabi Zakaria, his child, facilitated the pregnancy and the birth. And also we learned the salam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends on both of them. That is also a similarity. It tells us also an answer that we can give to those who criticize us for celebrating birthdays and commemorating shahadat. We also learn a similarity that is between them is the great distinction Allah confers on them during their childhood. We also have a brilliant answer to those who criticize us for following young imams, when Allah can do this with His great prophets and mentions them in the Quran. Certainly there's no problem in us following our young imams. Then we related this to how we can assist our children in their madrasa learning. We can do that by looking at these wonderful pieces of research that has been done with regards to the secular schools. We looked at 5 advices with regards to how parents can assist in secular schools, and we can certainly adapt them and apply them to the madrasa learning of our children as well. Let's pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, enable the Imam to come quickly, and oh Allah, protect him from all hardships. Oh Allah, forgive us and our forefathers for our sins. Oh Allah, bring relief to all those in difficult situations. Oh Allah, enable us to raise our children and play an active and effective role in their learning. Oh Allah, enable us to live and die with the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. And oh Allah, we ask you to help us to learn from the great stories of the prophets mentioned in the Quran.
Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdillah. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulillah. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم سائر شهداء كربلاء خصوصا سيدي مولاي أبو الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا سلطان يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى يا رضا. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسأل الله تعالى مخرجك وزهورك. السلام عليك وعلى آباء الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.